Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Exploring Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Donna Rebido. Hello, Exploring Consciousness podcast listeners. Today we have a very special friend of mine, Nathan Rehm. Welcome to the show, Nathan.
Donna, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So Nathan and I met with Tom Campbell's work, My Big Toe. Can you give our listeners some background, Nathan, into who you are and how you came to be associated with Tom's work, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess the brief version would be ever since I was a kid, I was just really interested in God. And I remember having conversations with God out in nature, looking up at the stars. And I didn't even really have a theological framework for that, but it just felt so right to me. So I think right from the beginning for me, there was some knowing or some capacity for spiritual connection and experience. And fast forward to um, this was 2011. I was 21 at the time. I'm 31 now, and so 2011. I'm looking for theories of everything and small ones at that. Not even big theories of everything. I'm looking for how does quantum mechanics and general relativity really sync up, scientifically and I wasn't obviously that smart and like even understand if I got the answer, but it was nonetheless something that I found very intriguing. And I type it into Amazon, and rather than like a Stephen Hawking or other public science educators, the first result was, for whatever reason, this book called My Big Toe. I'm like, that looks really interesting, and it's got a bunch of reviews. I'll read some, and I was like, oh, this Tom guy, he integrates science and spirituality. He's a physicist and a consciousness explorer. And I found that so interesting. And so that it was pretty much all history from there. I just dove into the work. Well, a little bit of background on me would be that I'm a psychotherapist and organic intelligence coach. And so I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and I got my master's in social work from Arizona State University, and I've really pursued a career in clinical social work, focusing on those who have been traumatized, helping with trauma resolution. And when I'm not working with my clients, I have a private practice now, and I'm not working with my clients, I'm writing music, I'm going for hikes at a local mountain called Squaw Peak, and watching sunsets, from a nice viewpoint. So yeah, start to stay active and creative, and also I really enjoy working with clients.
So did you buy Tom's book? What did you
I
do after
did.
that? Tell me.
I did.
So it's a trilogy. How hard
It
was it to
is.
read? People got to know
Well,
this.
the trilogy is quite thick and worthwhile, because when you're going to have a theory of everything, it's going to, Tom really lives up to his promise, that's for sure. It really goes into depth around the nature of reality, and that's both the physical aspects, this what we'd call physical matter reality. What are the rule sets of that, and what relationship does that have with consciousness and non-physical reality. And so it's a very, very rich and worthwhile book. And it is how to say, like, it's got a reputation for really helping people process on multiple levels. Like, people have stories all the time that they'll, including Donna, who started MBT Events, a really important organization that helps do live events with Tom. Donna talks about how she was reading the book, and all of a sudden these paranormal experiences started happening to her just from reading the book. And um, this happens to a lot of people who read Tom's book. There's something that comes alive in the sort of intuitive or paranormal aspect for them. So that's not the intention of the book. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it's a powerful epitome. So highly recommend. And yeah, it's also one that you're going to want to have a bookmark for, and just really take your time with. It's a longer one, but it's worthwhile for sure.
And then how did you get started into his workshops? I mean, at that point, so you read the books and you go, I need to know more about this. And you haven't had an NDE. Have you had an out of body? You just wanted to know about the science of it, right?
Exactly. I want to know about the science of it. And at that point, when I found Tom's work, it was quite synchronistic, because I was starting to feel and realize the importance of not just understanding spirituality intellectually or cognitively, but really through experience. And so I was really approaching that, especially through Eastern spirituality and Buddhist practices, meditation, and so it was quite timely for Tom's work to come into my sphere somehow in 2011, because I was ready to say like, okay, I'm ready to, not only learn more intellectually, but I'm ready to practice. And so I did start implementing Tom's work into my meditation routine, and especially in 2017 was the first time that I went to an event with Tom. This was at the Monroe Institute on the East Coast of the USA. And yeah, there was an in-person immersive experience that I got to participate in. And it was, I mean, I still keep that journal, close to my heart. And just all the experiences I had that really opened my mind to, wow, like nature is larger, stranger, and more beautiful than I realized. So,
What we're going to talk about next is this. What Tom is going to be on the show with is what's called Tom's Park.
hmm,
And I guess the premise that we can talk about, Nathan, is that Tom, in melding a quantum universe and a macro universe, both Isaac Newton and last century physicist in the quantum field, is that this is a virtual reality. And he's been saying this since the 70s. And so some of the physicists are starting to come around to this. So when we talk about Tom's Park, to give a little background, is that this is we're avatars in a virtual reality system. Is there anything that you can say to lay the groundwork for what we're about to talk about?
sure. I think you really covered it well. And if there was anything I would add, it would be that how I am beginning to understand and experience the reality that we live in is much like what Tom talks about, which is that we are having an experience, but not because we're being fed a data stream from the larger consciousness system. So larger consciousness system, that would be in some other traditions, like metaphorically God or the universe in a larger sense. Tom's larger consciousness system is different in some ways, but that's a conversation for another time. But for the sake of this conversation, that would be sufficient. And my point would be that that system, that larger consciousness system, is feeding us a data stream so that we have experience, like you and I talking right now. And Tom's Park is a data stream that is sent to those who want to enter it, and everyone gets their own unique data stream from the system. So they're all in some ways experiencing Tom's Park, but they're experiencing their Tom's Park. There's this subjective element, and people, we'll get into this a little bit, I'm sure, but people will customize their park, and that'll be the way their park is next time they go back. And so, yeah, it's this interesting combination of like, it's a park, a virtual reality, as you say, that can be accessed, and it's also one that is customized to us in a very fun and unique way, and useful.
So it's a fun way to meditate. So if you're sitting
Hmm.
there and you want to meditate and you want to contemplate that we are more than our physical self, that there might be dimensions greater than us, but you're having a hard time. You've read his book, you're doing consciousness exploration, and you just can't get there. So many people go, I meditate, I can't get there, I don't know what you're talking about. They don't have maybe a great imagination, or they aren't really sure how to get started. And Tom saw this in people that were coming to his workshops, the frustration people were having with all these people are going out of body, they're coming back and saying how great it is. And there was a handful of people sitting in the back going, I didn't see anything. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I want to get there. So coming out of this, he came up with this game. It's a book. It's an ebook. It's a paper book, and there's drawings associated with it. And he spells it all out as a park to help you get started with your imagination. So he calls it imagination reality. So instead of, like you said, this data stream that we're in now, is we call it virtual reality. But if you want to leave it and you're having a hard time, he created this game. And so it's not a board game. It's your imagination. So you're given a set of drawings and you're giving a book with descriptions. And he says, welcome to my park. And so you begin with any park that you've gone to in your life, you've probably gone to an amusement park, or there's the park in the woods, just park somewhere. And so he's creating this with kiosks and benches and lily ponds in a recreation center in Love Lake. So he's created all of this. So we're gonna assume that you're listening to this and you get really excited and you go out and you buy the book. But we're going to talk about it from our experience. So Nathan and I have been in the park. We go to the park often, and we customize it. So let's go ahead and begin there, Nathan.
Awesome. Well, it's such a good explanation of what's going on there, Donna, because in some ways we're talking about something quite strange and different, but in some ways we're not. This is something that every night we have dreams, and we have, from wherever information and data comes, it comes to us, and we're in different realities, interacting with different people. So in some ways, the park is very close to home, to our consciousness and to our experience every night. And so this, rather than being asleep, in this meditation state, just as you say, we imagine the park. And so I'll speak from my experience.
Okay.
It felt very approachable when I really understood it that way, going, and I'm like, oh, it's actually nothing that strange. This is something that I do all the time without trying, and I just get to direct or participate, or even receive, if you want to use that language. I receive a data stream that I would like and ask for. So in my meditation, when I began with Tom's Park, I just didn't have any expectations. And for me, that was really important, because I'd done enough of Tom's meditation techniques before the park to learn, when I come with how things should be, how high resolution, I'm going to have this outcome. It's like all these things that understandably I wanted. But I realized the more I wanted them in that sense, they got farther and further away. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go with what happens. And so I had the benefit of my own trial and error, and then realization, to come to the park and say, this, like any other meditation that I've done with Tom's work, I'm just going to let it be what it is. And so I started working with the park, and was very, very surprised to see how different meditation experiences had different experiences for me. Sometimes they would be very cloudy and foggy, and I was like, that's totally fine, and I'm just noticing what's there. And then suddenly there would be this conversation that I'm having, for instance, with a staff member, and there are staff members at the park, and I'm having this conversation with a staff member, and they tell me something that just opens my heart and makes me realize something about my own healing process, for instance. And like, oh, like I can let something go finally, when they said something so poignantly. So, they would have to know me to say it like that, basically. And it's like, how does this person I just met at the park know me like that? And they speak to the way that just melted me. Or another time, I have a group of friends that I like to do some meditation with, and they also have Tom's Park. And they said, hey, let's all just go to the park and have fun. And so even though we're each going to our individual parks, Tom's Park, there's this way that we started having psychic communication crossover, where I would, in my Tom's Park, say, oh, what's my friend Joey doing? And I'd look over there, and I'd see Joey going on the jet skis in Lake Love. And I'm like, oh, like, that's interesting. And so I stayed open and skeptical, because you never know if what you're seeing is, whatever, but it's my truth, and that's all that matters. Is it useful? But then the point being, I'd come out of the meditation, and then I'd be connecting with my friends. I'd say, Joey, I saw you riding the jet skis. And Joey was like, yeah, that was the first thing I wanted to do at the park. And I just stayed there for a while. I was riding the jet skis. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that was new for me, when I started realizing that we're all having our own subjective experience, and there is some connection that we share that's hard to put into words, where we can share data about what we're doing.
So there's an entrance. So in your mind, you can make any entrance that you want. But remember, there's a full color illustrated map of the park that you can use. I mean, an actual physical one that you can buy and use. So there's an entrance. When you come in, there's yellow benches. So some people walk in, they drive in, it doesn't matter. You're using your imagination for this meditation. So you just start out just imagining going into the park. So I've been going in by entering onto the yellow benches. So I close my eyes, I start my meditation, I say, go to Tom's Park, and I'm on a yellow bench. Then what Tom would like you to do is use all your senses in your imagination. Like you said, in a dream world or daydreaming. In daydreaming, you're using your senses. If you're reading a book that's really engaging, you're using your senses. You're imagining sounds. You know, they say a shot rang out, a dark, stormy night. You know, people can, you can kind of get there. But I'm sitting on the bench and I start to smell the pine trees. So, there's pine trees. Oh, I can hear the lake. So he wants you to hear the sound of water lapping onto the beach. In the background on this lake, there's a jet ski area. So I can hear the sound of the motor way out in the distance. And then there's Tom's Grill right by the entrance. And so I love cinnamon milkshakes. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting all this sense data. And I go, I can smell that cinnamon milkshake. So I get up and I go over to Tom's Grill, and then I start my adventure. How do you begin?
I begin, first of all, I love the milkshake that you get. That's great. I had to say that. I begin by really like almost dropping from the sky. So I
Nice.
drop from the sky, and there's this little center plaza area that's sort of right by Tom's Grill, as you say. That's often where people start. And so I just drop in, and I do the exact same thing with the senses, because for where I'm at in my process, I don't have a ton of sensory information right away in the park or any other non-physical place that I'm visiting. It just takes a little bit of time, and, kind of warming up the car, before you drive it, sort of thing. It's like, okay, I just drop in and I might get a few spontaneous, easily accessible sensory things, but then I start saying the same thing. I go, like, I wonder if I can smell what's cooking at Tom's Grill today. And I start right away with the nose and the grill, like, what's cooking today? And I almost always try to hear bird song, because I
Oh,
love bird
nice.
song. And there's lots of animals at Tom's Park that are friendly. And so, like, I start with bird song, smelling, and then I go to touch. I love going to the grass, because Tom made the grass very specific. It's very pleasant, non-irritant, and very soft. You can lay in it, even probably fall asleep. It's so comfortable. So I'm like always feeling the grass. I'm like, this is not normal grass. This grass is so great. And I'm just checking it out and enjoying it. And then pretty soon, the sensory information starts coming more easily and naturally. And so, yeah, that's usually how I start. And what happens next is anyone's guess, like where I go from there. But that's a pretty standard start for me.
And I think you brought up some really good points. So you have to come with a mindset when you come into Tom's Park. And the mindset is some of the things you started talking about, Nathan, where you said there's no expectations. You have to have fun. Fun has to be part of it. You have to be positive. So if you're having a bad day or any negativity, it's best to go back out of Tom's Park, work on that for a little bit. But there's some other things you can do even if you're having a bad day. But the idea is to be overall positive. There's nothing there that can harm you. So I have a very bad allergy to horses. I love horseback riding. The only place I can go to horseback ride is in Tom's Park. There's no allergies. But we're just starting off Tom's Park with having a sensory experience, have an intention. So a lot of times when I go into meditation, I have my little intention book, and I'll say, today I want to do X. So it's different than, an intention is different than an expectation. So I can have an intention. There's a particular person I'm working on in the physical matter reality that I want to heal. I'm working on him on healing. And I'll say, today I want to go to the healing center and work with my friend. Or today I just want to have fun. I want to go out to Love Lake. I don't want to jet ski, but I want to snorkel. So we can snorkel on this ship. There's a jet ski area with games, all kinds of games. But to just play around in there. When you're done, there's a change kiosk. So there's 3 kiosks down by Tom's Grill that you can walk through and change. And I love the change kiosks. You walk in, so there's an entrance to, like you would say, the street entrance or the sidewalk entrance, and you walk through, and when you come out, you can change for snorkeling gear, whatever. So you can go through the kiosk, play, come out, come back through, get changed again. And then we're going to start walking around the park. So there's lovely floral gardens. So I was able to go to the Netherlands and actually in this physical matter reality and see the tulips and see the flower markets in the Netherlands. So I imagine that. So even though he starts you out and he describes everything and there's pictures, like Nathan said, you can then change it. So I'll start walking around by those gardens. Over there, there's a hot tub. And I find that I go to the hot tub a lot because there's a lot of healing there. So I've had a lot of trauma. So for me, it's really important for my avatar, this avatar, to spend a lot of time in that healing hot springs hot tub and get out of there. And then I head to the lodge. Do you want to add any of your special ones before we head to the lodge?
Oh, I'm right there with you with going to the park for healing because
Yeah.
a lot of us have been through a lot. That's just the simple way to put it. And as we do this consciousness work, we often are coming up against these things that have happened and facing them. And that's what I've been so appreciating about the park for myself is that I've been able to do a real degree of healing work through my own receiving sessions from professionals, from there are healing meditations that we do in the MBT community that are free. Anyone can come to those. And the park has all these resources for healing. And so I've been using the hot springs and a hot tub as well. And I also go to there's a fear clinic. You can get assigned a therapist from this fear clinic that's in the park, and you can go regularly and just keep getting support in that way. And honestly, it's hard to put into words. I'm still trying to figure this out for myself, but there's something healing for me around just being able to have sensory experiences in the non-physical. I can't put it into words yet, Donna, but it's so fascinating that when there's these moments when I really feel that grass, or I really smell that pine, or it's like there's something for me that is like, like I feel more fully human or something. It's so strange. So anyway, maybe someday I'll have words for that, but whether it's I'm intending to heal or just unintentionally, just from being in the park, there's all these resources and experiences that have been super helpful for me too.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump on that one too, Nathan, because I walked into the lodge and it's the first time I went downstairs. So there's a big lodge and he explains all the rooms and there's upstairs where you can go to get counseling but it's the first time I went downstairs and there's a big healing and rejuvenation center down there. And I recently was under the weather, got a hold of some food and really was hurting. So I said, tonight, man, I'm going to the Healing and Rejuvenation Center. First time I went down there, and you can get a counselor. And it's the first time I met another being, that wasn't a non-human being, and it was my counselor. And I was like, oh my gosh. And asked their name. They told me their name, and I was just floored with the synchronicity. So they said, come on downstairs. And he talks about you get a feel for it, a sensory feel for it. You're walking in this big mason brick solid area, and I'm walking down these beautiful steps. And I didn't know what was down there, but there was the hot springs kind of wound through the lodge so that you can be in a hot springs little area that was both inside and outside the lodge.
Wow.
And they go, why don't you just lay in here for a little bit? And then the most unbelievable thing happened to me. And I never expected it. And so I'm sitting there. So, I have an upset stomach. And this being healed, I could feel viscerally. I could actually felt in my stomach being healed by this entity. And I'm laying there going, oh, I'm going with this. I'm staying with this.
Right.
Because it's the first time I really felt that what you're talking about. There's something visceral that I don't get in any other meditation that I never got anywhere. And when I came out of my meditation, actually physically felt healed.
Wow. That so matches my experience too, where like my physical, whether it's muscles or organs or like something feels better for me when I come out of Tom's Park when that area was worked on. I'm like, wow, like this is better. And Tom and his team are very clear, like, this is not a treatment for medical diagnoses,
Yes, don't
like
exactly.
all the good liability stuff. And of course, we never make any promises when we're
No,
talking about the park,
no,
but we're just talking about our experience. I
right.
felt physically and energetically different both when I came out of those similar kinds of meditations from, encountering, I've gotten massages, there's a massage, place in the park. And I'm like, I'm getting a massage right now. I feel it, and and I come out and like, I'm looser, and more relaxed. And so it's a thing. It's a thing for sure. And that's really, I think, why Tom is so passionate about the park, because not only are people getting to know the larger reality in their own experience, but it just helps people. Like people do
The
learning
learning.
and they
Let's
get,
do the learning. So
yeah,
it's not just a park like a spa, even though we're talking about these things to get people started at the lodge. There's also learning. So there's libraries and movies, and you can go into Akashic Records, and it's once you realize it's a data stream, and you can start expanding. So let's talk a little bit about the kinds of things that you can learn while you're there.
cool. Well, for me, I was also amazed by like the information I was able to get about myself, because like we were saying earlier together, um, you know, I am very interested in my own self-healing when I go to the park. Different times I have the intention, it's open for how it happens, but nonetheless an intention of like, I'd really like some healing around this area today. And so one of the things that's there is Play It Again, Sam. It's this it's this movie theater where you can watch any, it's quite open in what you watch. And I was like, I want to know the source of this fear that I have. And boy, did I get a movie. I got a real clear, like, wow, I really could not have made that up. Like, that is fascinating what I just watched, and super informative for moving forward with that issue. And, for those who like this metaphor, there's the cosmic brain drain library. There's a library that's where they access the what others call the Akashic records, right? And it's like all the information you could really use, it's like it's right there. And yeah, it's amazing how like both of those go hand in hand, and they're both found in the park. The experience and the healing, and there's understanding. There's information that is useful for yourself and for others, and pretty accessible. It's like, wow, this is not like, oh, have to knock on the door a certain way in the back alley. This is like a library card. You walk in and it's that easy. It's fantastic.
The other day we were doing global healing, and someone mentioned we were talking about Tom's Park, and someone said that they ran out of room in the hot tub, and I said, "No, it's your imagination. You make 30 hot tubs. You can just keep adding and adding." So once you get in there and you let your imagination run wild, you're just surprised at what comes, isn't it? It's
Yes. And really, the park is always designed, and it's been my experience too, to like always have available what you need, and to never like, oh, this person's too busy for you, or there's no room, for you here, or, it's like, it's just when you want or need something, it's there. It's just a very positive place. And so for sure, it's like, yeah, make more hot spring hot tubs, like whatever you need, just go for it.
and he only wants us to spend about an hour there. He doesn't want to make the park that we want to live there. He just wants it to, what are you going to learn? It's always about what are you learning from it? What do you want to, what is it that you can bring back? But there's sometimes you maybe in your life you're just not having a lot of fun in your life. So you can go there and have fun. You can horseback ride. There's a recreation center, anything imaginable that you want to do just to get a break from this virtual reality. So we've talked about the lodge, but there's the Warner Recreation Area. There's horseback riding, there's trails, there's hiking, there's mountains. You parachute in, but I'm a pilot, so I put in a little. I love the concept of flying cars. I know those are coming. They're coming within 10 years. People will be starting to buy their flying cars. So I have a whole flying car lot there.
Awesome. I
So
love it.
I'm like,
Yeah.
just fly around in my little
Right.
ultralight. Oh, let's go upstairs. So we're back in the lodge, and we're going to go upstairs. And there's very interesting hexagon rooms. Do you want to explain the hexagon rooms?
Sure. Yeah, these hexagon rooms were um, really templated from Tom's immersive experiences. So there would be these, 5 dedicated days for each topic, and then in the hexagon, there's really these 6 rooms that reflect those themes that are covered in those 5 or 6 days at the immersives. And so there's one room that's dedicated for working on point
Point
consciousness or
consciousness.
floating in the void, where it's just you're aware of awareness, you are consciousness. And that's a good starting place, really, in Tom's work for any kind of intention you want moving forward, healing, getting information, whatever you want to do. And so there's a room and there's technology in that room that'll help you really click into point consciousness. So that's a fantastic tool. And then there's another room for, communications, whether it's with alive or, deceased folks that have been on Earth or any other kind of entity for that matter. There's a communications room. There's a room for changing future probabilities and being in the databases, what's in the past database and what could be in the future and how can I nudge it a certain direction, or other these all these rooms. I'll leave the description, full description, for people to
Right,
check
right,
out.
yeah, yeah.
But that's a really fantastic room because I found it really effective that once I'm really getting that sensory information down, like I can see and hear and feel things, then it's like, okay, I'm going to go into the hexagon room, and I can really utilize that technology in there to really deepen my practice or get information or really get the support that is available in the hexagon room that has all these cool mechanistic, like push this button that does this with your consciousness and it really helps you. And it's like, whoa, I felt that, I pushed that green button and I was in point consciousness. That was really visceral. So yeah, it's a fantastic room.
Let's talk about the staff. So if you can't really, there's a lost and found. You can't get lost. You can just say go to the lost and found, just in your own imagination. But now we're going to get into even more complex things where you can start doing out of body or entering vortexes and going into other worlds and other dimensions. But there's always hope there. And like you said, if even though you're to be positive, we're still human and we still have fears, and you're not sure where to go, where to start. You can say I don't know where to go and where to start. Can someone help me? I need a guide to show up and help me. But if you're more advanced, you can now go to these vortexes, and there's areas that can expand and enhance your consciousness. What we've used that for the other day, I put in a peace garden over by the lily pond for the Ukraine. So we put a peace pole there, and when we do our meditations, I have a lot of people showing up for the Ukraine around that peace garden. But I put it over by the lily pond because it can expand that vortex. Can you talk a little bit about that for our advanced explorers?
Sure. So advanced explorers can find all these really cool situations that are set up in the park. Basically the travel agency.
Oh yeah, the
It's like you
travel
go up to
agency.
this
Yes,
staff at
you can
this one
go.
part of the park, and
Yes.
you know, right, right, and you can basically have it. There's literally like a menu list of like different kinds of experiences that you can be transported into, teleported into, and they're all either fun or instructional in how larger reality works, or um, and this is a great because a lot of people are understandably very interested in like, oh, like I want to get out of body. How do I do the out of body thing? Like have the astral projection. And so Tom's Park, I'm finding, is this really gentle and natural, easy stepping into that. And so understandably, they're really interested in making that work because they want to explore. And so, folks they'll try really hard with really limited success, or they'll try for a while and they'll have a success, but it totally freaks them out and they don't really know what to do, or like, whoa, like once I got there, I was like, oh, and then I came right back, and and I haven't been able to do it since. I hear that all the time. And so, Tom's framework, which really makes a lot of sense to me. It's like, like you can like really you can work your way towards that rather than like trying to like crowbar yourself into the non-physical. And then it's like, wow, I'm in a different land that works by different rules. How do I do this? And so working with imagination, I have found, has been really nice, where It's been very brief moments, but I'm working with imagination and Tom's Park, and it's like, whoa, for a moment there, it was completely lucid. And I realized that later, it's like it wasn't like this
Yeah.
really dramatic, whatever. It was like I was really there. And so what's exciting about the park is that, for folks that are just beginning like me to really explore these things, it's a fantastic tool. And for the advanced parts, like, oh yeah, out of body, I push this button, I go. Then it's like the Tom's like, great, come to this part of the park, because then there's deeper learning and exploration that can happen around all kinds of experiences that are ready for those folks too. So it's really a tool for everyone, which is
It really
exciting.
is. And there's one thing that I like, and I don't know if it addresses just the near death experiencers. So I'm a NDEer. So I died. I met the larger consciousness system, God. What I like about it is that you can pick up a phone and you can talk to larger consciousness system, or you can imagine yourself. And that's what I do. I actually go back to my NDE and imagine that I'm there, that I'm already that I
Mhm.
died. But maybe just for the NDEers, there's places in there for you too. So there's out of body for the out of body people, the NDEers, the advanced explorers. But just how can this be applicable for coming back? Why are we doing this? When we come back, what have we gained?
Well, for me, I know that um, I I come back and just right away, I can almost always tell I'm much more present. Like I've spent all this time really being with the present moment, the sensory experiences, interacting with people. And it's like, I'm just more present for my life, which itself is pleasurable. And it makes me more available for a relationship and being effective and productive. But I'm just more present, which is very enjoyable. And often, um, I've gone to the park to, work on myself, and so it's like, I feel some resolution around that as I'm walking around the world. Like that feels lighter to me, a little bit at least. And then also, I also go to the park to help with healing for others, and others, I'll check in, and it's not uncommon for people to say, "Oh, I really kind of felt a special energy," or, like that's really been getting a little better for me. And I'm like, sometimes, if they have a framework, I say, "Oh, I've been going to the park and I'm healing." And, sometimes I just keep it to myself. I say, that's wonderful, and so it really does have this bridge into this PMR. It's not like, we leave to go to Tom's Park, and that doesn't have any relevance for this reality. No, it's actually quite the opposite. They mutually enhance one another. So now when I go for walks in this reality, I spend time with my sensory information because I'm like, this will make my time at the park easier. And then it has been. And vice versa. I come back and I'm a more whole person. I feel healed. I feel present with other people, and I'm growing. And like you say, the park is also a great place to be in connection with the system. And so I'm walking around also in this reality, and I feel connected with the system, and having internal dialogue going. And so absolutely, it's super relevant and that's really Tom's whole point. I'm sure he'll be sharing this later with you in your audience. But the park was created not as an escape from or
Mhm.
disconnected from this reality, although this Tom's Park can be a place to sort of get some space from
Right.
the harsh realities of the world, get some rest, get some healing, and it's in service to being in greater relationship with the world and with other people here. And this PMR, this reality, is really the primary place we're supposed to be. And the park helps us be as positive and engaged with this world too as we can be. So yeah, it's very balanced in that way.
Yeah, and that's one of his tenets. The idea is that we're here to love, not become, I mean, become love, but to not act, but to be love and to evolve. And what I found for me is it has helped my evolution, like you said, Nathan. And when I come back, I find myself more neutral. And let me explain that neutral. Not so intense, not so worried, stress, all those kind of intense emotions, more neutral. And what happens with when I'm neutral, what I find coming in is my heart can expand, and I find that I have more compassion and more love. So I'm not neutral like in a car where I'm not going anywhere, but I'm more out of the drive, out of the ultra drive. I've got to do it. I've got to, blah, blah, blah. but I find myself more connected with everyone, if that can be a neutrality. That's really been very healing and evolutional for me.
Oh, it's awesome, Donna. And it really resonates with me too. That connection, that word especially resonates with me. It's like, I feel more connected to myself, to others, to the world. Absolutely.
Okay, what piece of advice for our young people? You represent my grandson. You are the generation two below me that I've been waiting for since the '60s.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I really sense it to have been kind of nudged along the way before Tom's work and into Tom's Park, that there really is there's this, I love how you said it just a few moments ago, Donna, like there's this love that can't even be condensed to a pronoun. Like it's so it's expansive and beautiful. And that love is us. And we are a part of that love. And we are all inextricably and beautifully linked with one another. I mean, people who really made a difference in the world. I think of, Martin Luther King Jr., I think of Thich Nhat Hanh, I think of all these folks that have been so active in transforming this world to a better place. You can just look on, Google, and they all have quotes around how we are all united, we're all really one. And, compassion is just this spontaneous, genuine expression of care and love for another when that's really felt. It's not just known in the mind, but I really see it's a great quote from Ramana Maharishi. Forgive me if I mispronounce that name, but he was asked, he's this Indian guru that really had a lot of wisdom. And someone asked, oh, how do we show compassion for others? And how do we love others well? And he said, there are no others. And that was his answer. And when you really feel that, it's just like, boom, there's love. And so I guess the only thing I would say to my generation is, in whatever way that is unique to you, don't ever let someone tell you that this is the way, but with all your heart, pursue your experience and understanding of that truth, that we are all really united in this life of exploration, of evolution, and really the problems of our day are too big for one person, but they are infinitely small when we are together, combining our gifts, and then we can do anything. And I really feel that, I really believe that we can do
You give me
anything
hope.
together.
Like hope. I have hope in my heart from your generation. So from my generation or my heart to you, Nathan, your heart and your generation, you give us hope.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Donna. What I was just feeling just now is just such gratitude because, I would not be where I am if it wasn't for the lifelong work of my elders who come with such wisdom, such insight. And I say this on my website, I list all my, mentors that, you know, for the large part are older than me. And by extension, they have much more wisdom, much more experience, and can spare me a little bit of, trying to find the long way. It's like, here's some shortcuts, here's some ways that really been. So I'm only where I am when I am because of them. And I bow to each of them and so grateful. And Donna, this podcast that you're doing, we were sharing about this before the recording started. Like people are just hungry for this kind of information and inspiration both. And they're finding it here. And this is as a result of your lifelong work of your own healing, your own exploration of consciousness. And look how it's a gift for so many too. So another example of how we're so linked with one another, that really our self-work is a gift to others. It becomes work on behalf of all. And so thank you for doing what you do. This makes such a difference in so many lives. And it's been a total pleasure to talk with you today.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. I admire you. I wish you well. Thank you for taking time out. Is there anything else we need to say about anything? I think we've done it. That part, yeah. How
Yeah.
do people get a hold of you, Nathan?
Yeah, they can reach me at nathanrehm.com, and there's a contact form. Feel free to reach out to me anytime for any reason. If I can support someone's journey in any way, I'm happy to.
I
And
have a
yeah,
companion. I have a companion website, and I put info about our guest, and I'll be putting up again Tom's Park information.
also the MBT community, they
Yeah, let's
have
talk about them.
really these monthly community calls that are designed for healing. And I really encourage people to come to those because A, they're free, and B, the energy is palpable, so powerful when you get 100 people synchronously in a Zoom room meditating at the same time for healing of each other and their loved ones. I mean, the experiences are so powerful. We have new people, and it's such a common pattern that new people come and say, "Oh, like I didn't really know what to expect, and I just came, and I've never felt that in meditation before." So there really is something special to the quality of the people that come together in those calls. And so I'd love to also invite people to those. You can go to mbtevents.com. And then if you go to the contact page, they have a newsletter, sign up at the bottom. And every month they'll get the link to join those calls. And so I think that's a fantastic resource people should take advantage of as well. Yeah, bubble communities are available to anyone who's completed an immersive experience with Tom. And so there's a live one coming up in Krakow, Poland. And for a lot of people who understand we won't be able to make it to a live immersive experience that's in somewhere like Poland, there's also something called the audio program. That's something people can do at their own pace online. And they can get that from mbtevents.com. And this audio program is basically a live immersive experience, really well organized and formatted for a self-paced self-learning. And then if people complete that program, they're by designation advanced explorers. They can go to advanced explorers programs. They can form a bubble with other immersive attendees or audio program graduates. And these bubbles, so when we say bubbles, what is that? Bubbles are just a group of individuals from the immersives that are meeting with each other on a somewhat regular basis to, first of all, just share life with others that are just quality. That's always worthwhile. And also to continue practicing the work. So meditation, growing, healing, getting evidence of the larger reality, forming their own big picture. So it's a nice way to kind of keep the rhythms of the work going. Because I found for myself, super hard to be consistent with meditation and growing process in general if I'm doing it alone, if I'm really shouldering that responsibility alone. But if I have people around me that are doing much the same thing with me and there's connection there, I have much better success with regular meditation, growing, healing. So those bubble communities are fantastic. And they're usually self-organized, but there's even someone that's volunteering in the MBT community to help connect people with other people that are looking for bubbles. So if people ever do complete the immersive or audio program, then they can form a bubble themselves, or they can reach out to someone and get some help around that.
Thank you, sir. Love you, my dear grandson.
Donna, you're a fantastic interviewer. This is a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's easy when you have people you love.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart.
All right.
So excited.
Love you, Nathan. Thank you.
Love you too. Yeah, have a great rest of the night.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, ciao.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We publish our Exploring Consciousness podcast on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of the second week of every month. Please check the podcast schedule and more on our companion website, exploreconsciousness.com. Thank you again for listening.